Hey everyone, and welcome back to a very special video, again featuring the new ChessUp 2 smartboard. For this video, I'll be doing a collaboration with the YouTube channel ASMR Chess. And if you haven't seen their content before, they make very soothing, relaxing chess content that you can fall asleep to, maybe even more soothing than my content.
I am going to play the Eric Rosen, the legendary and amazing chess YouTuber.
And we're about to play an over-the-board game against each other. We're in completely different locations, but we both have the new ChessUp 2 smartboard, so hopefully it'll work out pretty smoothly. And I am a bit stronger than my opponent, so I will have a handicap that only I know and ASMR Chess does not know, but I will share it with you guys, the viewers. For this game, I will be required to deliver checkmate with a knight. So have to hopefully protect my knights. If I lose both of my knights, then I'll have to eventually promote to a knight to give checkmate, but it should be very interesting. So let me look for the challenge here. And we have a game. Okay, pawn to d4. So as you'll see, when my opponent makes a move, the board will light up to show what that move is. And we actually agreed before the game that we're going to go into a very specific opening. And I was told to play the Budapest Gambit, which is pawn to e5. This is one of my favorite aggressive and tricky openings against pawn d4. Black is sacrificing a pawn, but very often can get a lot of initiative. So most players will take, and that's what white does. Play knight to g4. So it does look strange at first. I'm violating some principles, moving my knight already twice, lost a pawn, but I am attacking the pawn on e5. And very often I can win back the pawn, but there are cases where white will try and hold on to the pawn. So we see knight to c3. Okay. White is not attempting to hold on to the pawn, so I could take it right away. I do have a few options here. I have bishop to c5. I have knight to c6. Choices, choices. I'm going to play the most simple move. Knight takes e5. Returning to material equality. And going forward from here, I just want to develop my pieces. Pawn to e3. Let's bring my bishop to b4. So pinning the knight. And I'm feeling good out of the opening. I have actually a lead in development. I have 2 minor pieces developed. I'm ready to castle next move. We see knight to e2. Wow, I'm already very, very close to checkmating with my knight. Knight f3 is almost checkmate. Now it's not a touch move. If I touch a piece, it will show the legal moves, but I'm not forced to move the knight. I'm trying to figure out how I can orchestrate such a thing. I'm thinking about pawn d6 and then bishop to h3, sacrifice a bishop. Queen to h4 is also interesting. Okay, I'm going to be hyper aggressive here. Play queen h4. Really trying to put on the pressure. Now I'm attacking from all directions. We have left, right, and center. The f-pawn is pinned, the knight is pinned. My knight is hoping to do damage. One of the points of queen h4 is I'm kind of hoping for pawn g3, after which I have smothered checkmate with the knight. I don't think that's likely to happen, but it would be nice. I should also note I am attacking the pawn on c4. This pawn is now attacked twice. It's not easy for whites to defend, although maybe there are ways to defend pawn to b3. We might see this knight move to f4, g3. Would be safe moves. We see pawn to a3. So attacking my bishop. That is a nice looking move from white. I'm so tempted to play queen h3 and say, oh no, my queen. Deflect the pawn away from the g2 square. The queen h3 really does not have a threat and just loses a bishop. Pawn a3 is actually kind of annoying. If I play bishop c5, there's pawn b4. I'm looking at knight to g4. You know what? Let's play knight g4. I'm in a very aggressive mood right now. I'm sacrificing my bishop, but going after the f2 pawn. There's not too many ways for white to defend the pawn. One of the points is if white plays knight to g3, then I can more happily take on c3 to double white's pawns on the queen side. And there's actually a nice variation, knight to g3, bishop takes c3, pawn takes c3, and then queen f6, attacking f2 and c3. There might even be, after knight g3, I can play queen f6 immediately. Really keep the pressure on. It's also worth calculating the variation pawn takes bishop, and then could take on f2 with the queen or the knight. Queen takes f2, king d2, queen takes e3, king c2. The king might slide away, but it looks very fun. Eventually knight c6 and bring the other knight into the game. The other possibility is pawn to g3 to attack my queen, prevent queen takes f2. And if pawn g3 is played, I'll play queen f6 and keep attacking the f2 pawn. So we're only 7 moves into the game, but things are already very spicy, very complex, very rich position. Okay, pawn to g3 is played. Yeah, just making sure there's no other... I mean, I could consider taking on c3 first. But let's go with the original plan, queen to f6, keeping f2 attacked. I'm not sure what to expect here. I mean, there are ways to defend the f-pawn. Pawn f4, knight to f4. Those might be the only 2 ways. And knight f4 leaves c3 undefended, so knight f4 I take, win a pawn. Pawn f4 looks a bit weakening, but maybe is necessary. There's still the line of pawn takes bishop, which could lead to a lot of madness. I'm just imagining the viewers watching on ASMR Chess's YouTube channel. I'm not sure if this is the type of game you want to fall asleep to. Maybe it's a good game to wake up to. I have a feeling things are going to get even more crazy over the moves to come. We do see pawn f4. So now I have another choice to make. I could move my bishop. My bishop has been attacked for the last several moves now, but I don't like playing defense. I'm going to play this move, queen c6. And only when I let go of the piece is the move finalized. So it's very similar to over-the-board chess, like a chess tournament. Once you let go, the move is final. Now I'm hitting the rook on h1. I'm also, again, attacking the pawn on c4. Queen d5. It's actually a very nice move that I did not see coming. Queen d5 saves the rook, offers a queen trade. Kind of kills my fun. Should I move back with my bishop? I think I should. Let's move back to c5. And even if we trade queens, I can still try and keep some initiative. This e3 pawn is a bit backwards. Currently attacked twice, only defended once. And white has to be very careful because if pawn e4 is played, it allows moves like knight f2 or bishop f2. Although that might be the best approach for white because a minor piece coming to f2 maybe doesn't win anything immediately for me. I really have to still keep in mind my handicap. It's not something I've thought about so much over the recent moves. I still have to value my knights a bit more. Knight to d4. Wow, so there's a lot of action happening in this area. Knight attacks my queen. Our queens are still having a staring contest. I think I should just take the knight with my bishop. We simplify a bit, but at least my queen can stay where it is. And if white takes back with the pawn, then the e-file will be open, and I'm hoping to castle very soon. Yeah, white does take back. I'll go ahead and castle. I'd like to get my rook to e8 as quickly as possible. Now, it's a big question. Are we going to see the queen trade? Who's going to blink first? If queen takes c6, it does help me develop a bit. I could take back with my knight. Can maybe consider taking back with the d-pawn to open up my bishop on c8. It's possible white will leave the queen on d5 and just look to complete development. Yeah, we see bishop to e2. Simple move, attacking my knight. I do not want to retreat. So let's bring my rook to the e-file, rook to e8, pinning the bishop on e2, thus defending the knight. Castling, okay. So now the bishop is unpinned, my knight's attacked. As we've seen so far in this game, I really don't like retreating, but I think I have to accept the fact the knight belongs back on f6. And this is a retreating attacking move. I hit the queen. Now I'm going to force white's hand. Does white want to save the queen or trade on c6? White does trade. Now I'm realizing that it's another decision. Knight takes looks like the most natural move by far. I would hit the d4 pawn. But I'm not sure. If I take with knight, the rook will come to d1 to defend the pawn. And then what do I do? If I take with my pawn, my bishop can more easily develop. Yeah, this is a bit more intuitive, but I'm going to take with the pawn. I think most players would probably just instantly recapture with the knight there. But taking with the pawn has a few benefits, not only unleashing my bishop, but also making the d-file half open. And I do know that double pawns don't have the best reputation in chess. They're pawns that can't defend each other, get in the way of each other. But these double pawns are very solid. It's very hard for white to attack them. This pawn, especially on c6, restricts white's knight. There are issues where if I played knight takes c6, white would eventually have knight to b5 and c7 would be weak. But that's not the case in this position. King g2 is played, so perhaps stopping my idea of bishop h3. I'm okay with that. Let's develop my bishop. And probably look to play knight to d7, and then bring the rook to d8, and happily carry forward with the game. So it's a very interesting sort of queenless middle game position. And usually in positions like this, it's very important to identify the imbalances. So essentially what's different between white's position and black's position, and then try and see how these imbalances can help me move forward with the game. One of the biggest imbalances is the pawn structure, the fact that white has more space in the center, but my pawns are very compact. I have 2 pawn islands. And this pawn on d4, even though it looks like a nice center pawn, it could be an eventual target. If I get these moves in, knight to d7, rook to d8, can maybe look to maneuver my knight to f8 and e6. But white has ideas of their own, preparing pawn to g4. White wants to grab even more space. So I'm going to prevent that. I'll go pawn h5, purely a prophylactic move. And even though white is controlling more space, white is a bit restricted for the time being, especially this bishop. It can't develop to e3. Could develop to d2. It might be the move that we're most likely to see, bishop to d2. But we see pawn b4. Okay, so white is grabbing space on the queen side. Yeah, if I had one more move, maybe I could have included a5 to clamp down and discourage b4. But I'll carry through with my plan, knight b to d7. And it's all about improving the pieces, finding the optimal squares. Bishop to b2. Okay, so the bishop fianchettos is a little bit blocked, but yeah, long-term bishops can be valuable later into the endgame. Looking on the queen side, any ways to poke and prod. Still considering this a5 move, but I think my rook belongs on d8. Now, one thing with white's setup is white is in very good shape to keep this pawn defended. Yeah, the rook comes to d1. The bishop on b2 can also help defend the pawn in many cases. So it's not going to be an easy position to crack. I am considering knight to b6 here, but not sure how useful the knight is on that square. I'm also considering rook to e3. Just dive in head first. But let's go for knight to f8. I mean, this was my vision from a few moves ago, still trying to achieve the ideal setup. My rooks are on the only open files, one fully open file, one half open file. This rook is unleashed, hitting the pawn on d4, And now my knight might be ready to come to e6, apply even more pressure to the pawn. There might also be cases where my knight comes to g6. There's some idea knight g6 and then pawn h4 and try and break apart white's kingside structure. But I do have to respect white's setup. Very solid, tough nut to crack. If only I could teleport a knight to e3. That would be the dream. I'm still liking my idea of knight e6. This move has an obvious threat and maybe a less obvious threat. In the obvious threat, I just want to win this pawn. There's two attackers, only one defender. And the less obvious threat is I probably want to play pawn h4, attacking the base of the pawn chain. If we imagine pawn h4, pawn g4, I can then take on f4 with check and win a pawn in the process. So I'm feeling good here. You see pawn to d5, wow. I'll admit that I kind of forgot that move was possible, but it makes a ton of sense. I don't have time for pawn h4. White's threatening my knight. White's also threatening to take on c6. I think I have to take on e4. White has 4 defenders of d5, or 4 things that can recapture on d5. We're not going to see rook takes d5, but we could see pawn takes d5, knight takes d5, even bishop takes d5. All possible moves here. We see knight takes d5. I really don't want to trade knights, but I think I have to. Oh dear. Yeah, I do have to. What else to do? It's very possible I'll be in a spot where I'll have to under-promote to a knight. Okay, we see bishop takes d5. Do I have a tactic with knight takes f4, rook e2? I don't think it works. Now my b7 pawn is hit. Oh, but there's a very cute trick. I'm going to play knight f8. And now I can say, oh no, my pawn, my b7 pawn, undefended. Will white take the bait? Consume the poison. If bishop takes b7, I take the rook on d1, and then I play rook e2. And I'll be winning the bishop on b2. And white takes the poison. I'll take on d1. And I've still held on to my knight. Okay, winning material. Yeah, this is still going to be a challenge though. Because to deliver checkmate with a knight in such an endgame, not exactly easy. But hopefully I can win some more material. We see king to f3. Take the bishop on b2. Now it's a matter of trying to clean up the pawns. I am attacking the pawn on h3. I'm also threatening rook to b3 to win the pawn on a3. So life is very good here. Opponent has fallen below a minute. Okay, we see rook to a1, so defending the pawn on a3. Let's go ahead and take the pawn on h3. And now I have a nice threat of bishop to g2, skewering the king from behind and winning the bishop on b7. I'm trying to conceptualize the possible knight checkmates. The king is cut off along the second rank. Knight can be ready to re-enter the game. Okay, pawn to b5. Let's win the bishop now. Bishop g2. King to e3. Opponent is severely low on time, and now severely low on material as well. I'm up a knight and a bishop. And, oh, can I play rook to b3? Attacking the pawn on g3, but more importantly, cutting off the king on the third rank. And knight e6 is almost checkmate. I just need to play f6 first. Let's play f6. And I'm one move away. One move away. Oh, but he stops it. Pawn c5. I'm going to have to keep working for it. What if I got my bishop to e2? Okay, I have an idea. I'm going to play this. Bishop f3. I want my bishop on d3. Oh no, that's not me either. How to do this? King c4 is played. How do I checkmate with a knight? Move rook e3. White is ready to play like a5 and b6. We see a5. I'll play bishop to e2. King b4. How can my knight come in? All right, let's take a pawn. b6. Let's take this. Yeah, with the pawns coming off the board, the king actually has more squares to move to, which makes it even more difficult to checkmate with a knight. Okay, we're trading pretty much all the pawns. Pawn takes back. I'll play bishop to f3. There is a world where this rook could sacrifice itself for the knight. But again, my opponent doesn't know my handicap. Did I just allow rook takes f3? No, I'll have knight to d7. It almost works so for white. Okay, let's play bishop e4. Offering the rook trade. Rook a7. Pawn goes marching. Pawn b7. Yeah, let's stop this pawn. Pawn's now attacked twice. I'm ready to promote. A couple more moves away. King c4. Okay, let's get rid of this pawn. I'm actually wondering if it makes more sense to promote to a knight, but no, I think it makes more sense to promote to a queen, try and get the king to the edge, have my knight come in for the kill. King d4. All right, I'll sack my bishop, getting ready to make the queen. There goes my bishop. Oh yes, my queen. I think I need to, how do I promote? There we go, okay. Does require some special technique to promote to a queen here. Rook takes g7. The kamikaze rook. I'll take back. And I still have my horsey. I don't actually remember if this was the g8 or the b8 horsey. Opponent is praying for stalemate, probably. Let's get the king to the edge. I've never had to really seriously do this in a game, but shouldn't be too difficult, I imagine. Let's bring the queen here. That's not stalemate. Okay, I have a really nice idea. I'm going to play queen to b7. The king is stuck between these two squares. And then I'm going to get my knight to e4. And there's nothing white can do about it. White could resign or flag, but yeah, I don't think we're going to see that. Actually, after king d6, king d6, knight g5. I prevent king e6 with this move. The king has to go back to c5. It's a very aesthetic mate. Somewhat of a love triangle between the knight, the rook, and the queen. And that's mission accomplished. Good game to ASMR Chess. Really hope you guys enjoyed the video, enjoyed the featuring of the ChessUp 2 smart board. If you want to get this board, especially for the holidays, more information is in the link below. And also definitely check out the video from ASMR Chess. They recorded their side of it. Link to that is also below. And hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys soon.